I walk into the office that morning, my heart hammering in my chest, every step echoing louder than it should on the polished floors. There's a tension in the air that I can feel before anyone even speaks, like the room itself is holding its breath, waiting for something to shatter. "Can you come into my office, mister?" Caldwell's voice cuts through the murmur. I turn to see him leaning against the doorframe, a cold, calculated smile plastered on his face. That smile, so fake, so deliberate, it feels like ice against my skin. I step inside, and the door clicks shut behind me. The words come, but not for me. Not for the years I've poured into this place, the nights spent staring at spreadsheets while others left for happy hours. We've decided to promote Linda instead. Time freezes. The room tilts. Shock and disbelief paralyze me as the words sink into every fiber of my being. I can hear the faint rustle of whispers behind me, the stifled amusement and awkward sympathy from colleagues who never had my back. Linda beams, her teeth flashing under the fluorescent lights, completely unaware of the damage she's just been handed by default. The HR manager smirks, handing her a small congratulatory plaque as if the ceremony were some casual favor. My presence is ignored entirely. My chest tightens. I can feel the heat crawling up my neck, my face betraying the storm building inside me. Powerless, exposed, humiliated. Muffled laughter drifts in from the hallway, mocking me as I leave, forcing myself to hold a calm exterior while my mind races 1,000 miles an hour. The office air feels heavier, thicker, as if every surface is pressing in on me. Silent judgment, endless and suffocating. Every glance from my coworkers pierces through me like sharp blades, some smirking with amusement, others indifferent, all complicit in the humiliation. I sit at my desk, fingers trembling as I pick up a pen. I think of every project I saved, every idea I brought to life, only to watch it get credited to someone else. The betrayal is so routine, so intimate that it tastes bitter in my mouth. My pride has been wounded. Beneath the surface, a storm begins to form, a quiet, smoldering fire fueled by every slight, every overlooked effort. Even the lunchroom conversations haunt me now. Casual comments, tossed off remarks, they suddenly feel like daggers. Every joke, every side eye, every whisper was a subtle betrayal, a reminder of how invisible I've been. I leave work early that day, the winter city streets biting at my skin. The cold doesn't hurt, it sharpens my focus. The humiliation sinks into my bones, a weight that won't let go. I walk past crowded cafes and bustling sidewalks, but nothing touches me. I am alone, humiliated, and yet somewhere in the depth of that shame, a seed begins to take root. This is not the end, not yet. I remember my first day at the department like it was yesterday, walking through those glass doors, eager, naive, full of ambition, convinced that hard work alone could carve my path. The air smelled faintly of coffee and disinfectant, the hum of computers filling the space with a sense of possibility. Auntie's voice echoes in my memory, her lessons sharp and unyielding, resilience, discipline, and the quiet power of observation. She taught me to see what others overlooked, to notice patterns in chaos, to measure patience like a weapon. Now, I recall every word with vivid clarity, each syllable fueling the storm inside me. Years of effort had gone unnoticed, late nights buried in reports, salvaging failing projects no one else wanted to touch, solving problems that no one credited me for. Each success I nurtured quietly, every triumph swallowed by the department's indifference. I see the subtle sabotage, the whispered campaigns behind my back, the small lies that undercut my credibility. They were so carefully orchestrated, so faint, that only in retrospect do I understand the deliberate cruelty. Mr. Harris, my mentor, had praised me privately, a rare acknowledgement in a world that barely saw me. He had warned me about office politics I was too inexperienced to grasp, and I had ignored the caution, blinded by ambition. Betrayal runs deep. Friends smiled at me in the hallways while reporting every minor misstep. Bosses lifted my work and claimed it as their own. I recall the pivotal project I rescued: sleepless nights, meticulous planning, every detail perfected, and how Linda's mediocre contribution was celebrated while my efforts were invisible. The memories dig deeper, resurfacing childhood lessons of invisibility. I was always the helper, never the hero, taught to fade into the background, to survive by accommodating others. That same pattern had followed me here, allowing others to take credit while I remained unseen. The weight of it all is suffocating. Every overlooked achievement, every slight, every dismissal piles upon me. The years of being underestimated, dismissed, and ignored boil into a quiet, consuming fury. I catch my reflection in a coffee shop window one evening. I am tired, my face etched with the strain of unnoticed labor, but unbroken. I study myself, tracing the lines of resilience, and I begin to plot. The outline of my revenge takes shape in my mind, precise, measured, inevitable. I remember nights alone, poring over departmental reports, spotting patterns of negligence, inefficiency, and favoritism that everyone else ignored. Each detail sharpens my sense of justice, each forgotten mistake or stolen opportunity hardening my resolve. This humiliation, this endless cycle of invisibility will not define me. I vow silently, firmly, with the weight of every betrayal behind the words, I will not be invisible, not anymore. I begin quietly documenting every misstep, every lapse in leadership, every error that stems from sheer incompetence. Pages fill with notes, spreadsheets, emails, proof of the cracks no one wants to acknowledge. Each detail is a thread in the tapestry I am weaving, a record of the chaos others pretend doesn't exist. Linda becomes impossible to ignore. Her incompetence is glaring, yet she thrives on favoritism, her confidence a mask for fear of scrutiny. I watch her stumble, relying on empty charm and alliances she cannot maintain, and I start seeing the openings. I gather allies in silence, colleagues who have long felt trapped by the toxic atmosphere, who have silently resented the favoritism and my sidelining, begin to reveal themselves. Their subtle nods, quiet acknowledgments, averted glances, they become part of my network, my unseen army. Whispered confrontations begin. In meetings, I point out small inconsistencies, question minor errors. Let my words expose cracks in competence without overt attack. The lies unravel in front of everyone, just enough to sow doubt, just enough to stir unease. Tension thickens in the department. People feel it, the quiet storm before the rain. Eyes dart, hands fidget, and the sense that something is shifting becomes palpable. Choke. Emails are sent meticulously, noting mistakes with precision, yet I never break my professional facade. Calm, composed, untouchable, each note a subtle dagger, a record that will later demand attention. I compile everything: financial mismanagement, failed projects, HR violations. The pattern is undeniable, a web of negligence no one can ignore. I confront Linda indirectly, asking pointed questions in meetings, observing her flinch, watching arrogance crumble into hesitation. Her fear and incompetence feed my strategy, each mistake stacking like dominoes. Morale begins to dip. The team senses the exposure, the unraveling, even if they don't yet understand the force behind it. I watch quietly as favoritism and poor leadership are subtly brought to light, letting the system betray itself. Late nights are heavy with anxiety, yet the plan sharpens. Each sleepless hour hones the strategy, every observation adding clarity to the coming confrontation. Small victories accumulate: an overlooked budget discrepancy, a missed deadline, a manager blindsided by facts. These cracks in the facade confirm the direction I am heading, each one a quiet triumph of patience and precision. Colleagues begin confiding in me, sharing experiences, confirming suspicions. The depth of dysfunction is shocking, but it validates every effort, every hidden calculation. My purpose solidifies. This is not petty revenge. This is accountability, exposing the rot that has long been ignored, showing the system for what it truly is. I visualize the fallout, mentally rehearsing each revelation, every shock, every expression of disbelief. I anticipate the consequences, the public acknowledgement that will finally bring justice. The storm I have nurtured silently is ready to break. The call comes late in the evening, just as I'm staring at the documents spread across my dining table. The voice on the other end is low, cautious, trembling with the weight of secrecy. "I'm from HR," they whisper. "I've been collecting evidence, months' worth. Mismanagement, favoritism, violations. You're not imagining any of it." The words hit me like a jolt. Everything sharpens, everything aligns. The denial of my promotion wasn't an isolated insult. It was part of a deeper rot buried beneath polite smiles and polished reports. I sit in silence after the call ends, the room suddenly too still. Every overlooked policy violation, every inflated performance rating Linda received, every convenient lie that kept the same people in power, all of it clicks together in my mind with painful clarity. The pattern is undeniable. The next morning, a message arrives from a former executive I once trusted. He asks to meet privately. When we sit down in a quiet corner of a cafe, he slides a folder across the table. "I saw what happened to you," he says softly, "and I know what's been happening here longer than you think. If you're ready to expose it, I'll guide you." Another. In that moment, I feel the shift, the ground tilting beneath the department, not beneath me. Upper management is blind, insulated by arrogance, but the truth is mine now. Mine to wield, mine to shape, mine to reveal. I spend nights crafting a strategy for legal and public exposure, every detail balanced between timing, evidence, and maximum impact. Every document is arranged with ruthless precision. Every email is cataloged, every violation is ready to surface. One night, as exhaustion weighs on me, I call Aunty. Her voice is steady, grounding me the way she always has. "You're not doing this out of spite," she reminds me. "You're correcting a wrong that should have been corrected long ago." Her words settle into my bones, calming the storm, sharpening my resolve. I steel myself for the confrontation ahead. The humiliation I endured, those whispers, that smirk, that cruel announcement, will be nothing compared to what is coming for the people who thought I'd stay silent. Certain behaviors in the office confirm it. Linda's paranoia shows in every jittery movement, every forced laugh. Her once confident facade cracks under the slightest pressure. She senses danger but can't name it. And the department, the atmosphere hums with unease. People don't know what's coming, but they feel it. The tension, the shift, the quiet dread. They don't realize it yet, but the storm is no longer forming. It's already moving toward them. I arrived early that morning, the office still quiet, the fluorescent lights humming like a warning. My report, 60 pages of evidence, timelines, signatures, and digital trails, was already in HR's inbox and forwarded to every senior executive before sunrise. I didn't need anger. I didn't need theatrics. I only needed the truth, and the truth was enough to burn the entire department down. By noon, I sent the meeting invite. Project review, mandatory attendance. No one suspected a thing. They filed into the conference room with notebooks and coffee cups, chatting casually, unaware that the ground under them was seconds from collapsing. When the last executive sat down, I closed the door behind me and connected my laptop to the screen. "Let's begin," I said, my voice steady. The first slide appeared, an unfiltered snapshot of financial discrepancies stretching back years. The room fell silent. Each click revealed another layer. Missing funds, unauthorized transfers, altered evaluations. "These aren't errors," I said softly. "They're patterns." Linda shifted in her seat. A drop of sweat traveled down her temple. "This is taken out of context," she stammered, eyes darting wildly. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. Context? I opened the next slide. A side-by-side comparison of her approvals, timestamps, and altered reports. Then explain this. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. Papers slipped from her trembling hands. Colleagues leaned forward, whispering, gasping, questioning everything they thought they knew. The murmurs grew louder, transforming into open acknowledgement. People who once dismissed me now saw the precision of my work, the intelligence they had underestimated. Upper management looked stunned, their faces pale. Questions flew across the table, rapid, sharp, panicked. How long has this been happening? Why weren't we informed? How did we miss this? The truth was simple. They never looked closely, never listened, never considered that someone like me could see everything. Within minutes, the department's foundation cracked. Executives excused themselves to make urgent calls. Audits were ordered. 2 major projects were frozen on the spot. The panic spread fast, fear creeping through the hallways like smoke. Yet I stayed still, my voice calm as I walked them through every discovery. Slide after slide, fact after fact. No emotion, no hesitation, just the quiet, devastating power of clarity. Linda broke entirely. "She's twisting this. She planned this," she cried, pointing at me with a shaking finger. HR stepped forward. "Linda, please sit down." Their tone said everything. Her credibility wasn't just questioned, it was gone. The promotion board exchanged grim looks. They knew they couldn't stand by their previous decision. They knew they chose incompetence over merit. They knew this was their failure as much as hers. And then I delivered the final blow. I pulled a single sheet of paper from my folder and placed it on the table. "This is my resignation," I said, my voice low but unwavering. Gasps echoed around the room. I didn't attack them in the letter. I didn't need insults or accusations. I simply laid out the truth, how systemic negligence created this disaster, how their blind favoritism sabotaged the department, how leadership choices had real, lasting consequences. It was surgical, clean, irrefutable. By evening, my resignation was everywhere, circulated in the internal bulletin, forwarded across teams, whispered about by managers who once pretended not to know my name. By the next morning, online corporate blogs had picked it up. My departure wasn't just news, it was a statement, a spotlight, a reckoning. The department fractured instantly. People blamed each other, alliances crumbled, and the same executives who dismissed my ideas now scrambled to distance themselves from Linda. The chaos consumed them. Meanwhile, my reputation soared, built not on anger, but on precision, patience, and a kind of quiet vengeance they never saw coming. One by one, former colleagues stopped by my desk. "Thank you," they whispered. "You did what none of us could." Their gratitude wasn't loud, but it was sincere. Validation soaked through every word, every glance. As I walked out for the last time, I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The real confrontation had already happened. Not with shouting or threats, but with truth delivered in a way they couldn't escape. My revenge wasn't violent. It was intellectual, emotional, and absolute. An elegant destruction crafted from years of being underestimated. And as the department continued to collapse behind me, I finally felt something I hadn't felt in years: peace. The aftermath hit the department like an unexpected winter, cold, sharp, and impossible to ignore. Projects froze mid-stride, executives vanished into closed-door inquiries, and Linda sat alone in her glass office, blinds half-drawn, her once arrogant silhouette now small and silent. The chaos she created finally swallowed her whole. Colleagues who once avoided me now approached with hesitant smiles, eyes wide with something between awe and regret. Some spoke softly, almost ashamed. "We were wrong about you." I didn't realize how much you carried. Their confessions weren't necessary, but I accepted them with grace. Justice didn't require bitterness. Upper management scrambled to rewrite policies overnight, new review panels, transparency protocols, independent audits. All the safeguards that should have been there from the start finally materialized because of my report. Watching them rebuild what they had neglected for years felt like the final confirmation that my silence, my humiliation, had not been in vain. Hostia. In the weeks that followed, old mentors reached out. Private emails, late-night calls, quiet acknowledgments. "You handled this with brilliance," one wrote. Another said, "I'm proud of you for choosing truth over destruction." Their words didn't erase the pain, but they soothed something deep inside me. One evening, Aunty and I sat on the balcony, the city lights flickering like tiny victories in the distance. She placed her hand over mine and said, "You didn't lose yourself in the fight." And in that moment, I felt the weight slide off my shoulders. We weren't celebrating Linda's downfall. We were honoring the dignity we never sacrificed. When the financial audits concluded, the results were worse than anyone expected. Entire budgets mishandled, performance bonuses fabricated. A chain of accountability forced its way upward, pulling every negligent leader into the light. It wasn't my revenge anymore. This was the company cleansing itself. I walked away from that building for the last time without anger, just a deep, cleansing exhale. The skyline ahead glowed with possibility, each tower a reminder that new beginnings don't wait for permission. But the emotional cost lingered. Patience had been painful. Composure had felt like suffocation. Restraint had carved scars I didn't show anyone. Yet now, with the storm behind me, the scars felt like proof of strength rather than wounds. Humiliation no longer held power over me. It dissolved, replaced by an internal peace I had yearned for, the kind that comes only after standing your ground and surviving the fallout. As the dust settled, younger colleagues reached out, asking for guidance. I found myself mentoring them, not about revenge, but about strategy, resilience, and knowing when silence can be sharper than a blade. They listened with the kind of respect I once begged for. Outside the company, word traveled. Invitations arrived from universities, leadership forums, consulting agencies. People wanted my insight, my strategy, my story. My name, once dismissed, now carried weight. And through it all, I held on to the truth. Revenge had been necessary, yes, but I never let it poison me. Integrity had been my anchor, the thing that kept me whole while everything around me broke. Months later, the department stabilized under new leadership. Competent, aware, transparent. The place I once feared walking into finally found the direction it always needed. And I walked forward. No bitterness, no regret. Just the quiet satisfaction of a chapter closed with precision, justice, and unshakable dignity. I sit before the camera in my sunlit apartment, the glow washing gently across my face. The distant hum of the city drifts through the windows, steady and familiar. My voice is calm, but there's a quiet fire beneath every word, as if the story still lives in the air around me. I begin to speak, recounting the humiliation that started it all, the invisible labor, the long nights, the stolen credit, the sting of being dismissed. I described the strategic patience it took to survive the storms, the restraint that felt like holding my breath underwater, and the steady climb toward the moment everything shifted. Every sentence carries the weight of years spent being underestimated until the day I turned that underestimation into my sharpest advantage. Being underestimated, I say slowly, is never weakness. It's a weapon if you know how to use it. The visuals shift, scanned documents, red-marked reports, late-night screens glowing in dark rooms, colleagues whispering, Linda's uneasy glances, the explosion of fallout that followed the truth. Each clip feels like a chapter in a book my audience has now read cover to cover. I lean back slightly, letting the sincerity settle. Intelligence, I continue, timing, and composure. They're far more powerful than any loud confrontation. The quiet mind sees everything. I share Auntie's mantra, her voice echoing in my memory. Respect is earned, not given. Patience is your ally. The words land like an anchor, steady and sure. A montage rolls across the screen, the department cracking under scrutiny, Linda's public unraveling, audits flashing across boardrooms, and then me. My subtle victories, my quiet success, the sunrise on a new chapter. Revenge, I say, looking directly into the lens, isn't just retaliation. It's reclaiming the dignity they tried to take from you. It's justice without losing yourself. I let the silence breathe for a second before offering my final message to the viewers. If you're in a place where someone's trying to diminish you, don't react in rage. Observe, plan, execute with intelligence. Let your strategy speak for you. The final shot captures me stepping onto the balcony. The city lights stretch out like constellations, warm and endless. I rest my hands on the railing, a confident smile forming as the camera slowly pulls back. My voice closes the story, steady and resonant. When they doubt you, let your patience, courage, and strategy speak louder than their arrogance ever could.